It's great to be here, and many thanks, Tom and András, for organizing this. I find it difficult to believe, actually, that I'm standing here and talking about the digital and technology in the museum space. But these are times of such dramatic changes that even old war horses have to learn new skills, so here I am. So I thought I'd begin really by introducing MAP to you, because we're really the new kid on the block. We're a new museum that's opened just 2 months ago in the city of Bengaluru in South India. And what we're really hoping to do is to take art into the heart of the community and create a museum-going culture, actually, in the country. Because as of now, people don't see museums as exciting spaces to be in. They're seen as fusty, dusty, boring places. So how do we change that perception and actually get people to think that these are places that they actually want to be in? Because art is a way of life in India, but people are very reluctant to engage with it in a more formal setting. And let me give you a bit of context here, actually, because while there has been a lot of progress, India is a country where the structure, the social structure, is still very hierarchical. There are power structures, existing power structures that have created huge inequalities, both economic and social. So in that scenario, how do we create a museum that is inclusive and accessible and where everyone feels welcome? So that really is what our mission is. And it's not only the public that's reluctant to engage with museums. It's also the government in many ways. So the government is increasingly understanding the importance of the soft power of the arts. But these are just 2 figures up before you, and you can see the budget, the expenditure budget of the Met for 1 year. And on the other side, you can see the budget of the Culture Ministry in India. And that includes all the monuments and the archaeological sites that it has to look after, the hundreds of museums that exist, all the welfare projects that it has to undertake in relation to culture. So you get an idea of what the picture really is. To give you some history, we actually launched first as a digital museum in December 2020. Not because we wanted to, but because that was what the circumstances dictated. And when the pandemic hit, we were as confused as everybody else about the way forward. And our board and our advisors kept telling us, don't remain fixated on this physical space. Get out where the conversation is, get online, and engage. And when we did that, actually, we realized just how we were able to reach out to audiences that we would never have been able to do in the physical space. But what we didn't realize, and I think a lot of museums at that time didn't, was the way it changed the whole equation between the museum and the audiences. And I think there's no going back. For example, the museum was really the very dominant voice in this relationship so far. And now you had the visitor who was sitting in the comfort of his armchair, who decided when he would visit the museum, what he would like to see, and how he would like to see it. And the same for the collections. There was this rush to digitize collections and get it all out there. And so far, museums had really been fairly possessive about their collections. So I think that changed the situation, and there's really no going back today. And the pandemic re-emphasized the importance of accessibility. The pandemic and the socio-political developments that followed it really emphasized for us the importance of accessibility and inclusion, which has really been at the heart of what we would like to do at MAP. And we were lucky that we had a new museum, and so we were able to sit down from the beginning with the architects, with our advisors, the Diversity and Equal Opportunities Center, to say, how can we be accessible not only to people with physical disability, but also mental disabilities? So how do we create spaces that are welcoming for all? For example, what are the kinds of surfaces that we use? They need to be matte and not shiny surfaces. We have a quiet room. And this also translates to our online engagement. So what are the colors, the fonts, the contrasts that we use? We have image description, alt text. We also have Indian Sign Language interpretation. We had it on all our events online. And we have that in the museum as well for every event that we have. And I thought I would share with you a picture of a mural. And this was what we had commissioned from the Arvani Art Project, which is a collective of transgenders. And they created this mural along the boundary wall of the museum at the site when it was actually coming up. And it really told the story of Bangalore in a very inclusive way, reflecting all the communities, the diverse communities that come together to make this the IT capital of the country. Our collections, because of their diversity and range, allow us to continue that narrative of inclusivity, because our collection is loosely divided into about 6 categories. So you have pre-modern art, modern and contemporary, and textiles, which most museums in India have. But we also have indigenous art, which is usually not included in museum collections. We have photography, which is often seen as a process of documentation rather than an artistic practice. And we have popular culture, which is Bollywood posters, lobby cards, trade labels, advertisements, all of these which reflect mass culture. And what we're trying to do at MAP is to really move away from earlier art history canons that we inherited from our colonizers and really look for newer narratives and fresher approaches that reflect a more contemporary kind of thinking. Also to collapse these hierarchies between what is seen as high and low art and look across the collection to draw connections. So because we existed before as a digital space, we were able to kind of knit all the digital experiences that we've been developing over the last 2 years into the physical space. And I thought I'd share this with you, which is the digital lighting of the lamp. So we created these interactive screens. And usually in India, at an auspicious occasion or an opening, a VIP would light the lamp. And we said, why should only one VIP light the lamp? Everybody who comes to MAP is a VIP. And how can we involve them in the lighting of the lamp without burning down the building? So the lighting of the lamp actually, on your phone, you scan a QR code. And then various lamps in the MAP collection pop up on your screen. And you choose the one you want, type in your name and your number. And then it lights up on the screen with your name. So you were part of that whole lighting of the lamp at our opening. And so these interactive screens also help us to make the collection very accessible to people. So you can actually, on these screens, browse through the collection. You can zoom into an artwork, look at it closely, download the metadata if you want, type in your phone number or your email address and have the images sent to you so that you can access it anytime on your desktop. So the idea is that whatever is digitized at MAP is available to you. Okay, I thought I'd just show this to you for you to figure out how it works. So that's someone scanning it and putting it on there, getting it sent to them. Yeah. Okay, I'd also like to share with you the concept of MAP Labs. So MAP Labs really looked at the intersection of art and technology and how we can use technology to help us find solutions for art. And we are living in the Silicon Valley of India, which is Bangalore. And so we said, why don't we tap into this huge tech resource that we have and work with them. So we approached Accenture and we asked them to develop a 3D persona for us of one of our most famous and iconic artists, M.F. Hussein, using artificial intelligence. So what they did was they created this 3D persona whom you can chat with, ask him questions, and he answers. And the idea was young people actually had never encountered Hussein. And this was a great way for them to get to know about the artist in an interactive way. So what we did was we fed in we had to study all the interviews that Hussein had done over his lifetime, all the articles or interviews that he had given to newspapers, and put all that research together and then sent it into Accenture. So let me play this video for you to get a sense of how it works.
This experience is a great example of the power of AI, and Accenture has helped us build the entire software which powers this experience. This entire project is about bringing back Hussein to life. So there's many people like me who's never had the fortune to meet Hussein in real life. So be it children or be it adults, everybody enjoys this experience because he's just there again.
What is your name?
You can call me Hussein Saab, but my full name is Bengaluru Hussein.
How old are you?
Want to take a guess? As of today, I am over 100 years old.
How would you describe yourself?
A painter who prefers to walk barefoot, a filmmaker with a difference, and a lover of the most expensive cars on earth.
So what is your favorite painting?
The painting of the two sisters, who are actually my daughters.
When was your first solo exhibition?
My first exhibition was in Zurich in 1952. Through this work, I was awarded the Padma Shri in 1955.
Yeah. So you'll notice actually that we used text-to-voice technology, which is fairly nascent. So you can see the difficulties as well that we had with it. And then Accenture asked us for footage of Hussein. And so we tried to get together a lot of footage and whatever we could. But then the problem was, of course, that we were portraying a Hussein who was 80 years old. So they could do nothing with the footage that was 70 or 85 or 50. So, so there were certain technical problems that we had, and it isn't as sophisticated as we would like it to be. But there's one more project on Map Labs that I'd like to share with you all, which is interwoven. So this was a collaboration with Microsoft on their AI for Good project, because every year they would choose one or maybe two organizations to work with, and that year they chose MAP. And this is really a cross-cultural encounter between, based on the textile collections at MAP. And it really looks at connecting the collections of MAP with collections of museums in different countries, across geographies, across time periods, across cultures, through designs or motifs or patterns. And in a world where there's increasing polarization, we thought this was a great way for us to celebrate the many things that we find in common, rather than focus on the differences. And there are two kinds of journeys you can either get on as a user and type in some, for example, if you type in the Paisley, say, that you want to look at. So then and the wonder of AI is that each time you type this in, you get a different kind of a journey. It brings up all sorts of different connections. So you could have the Paisley that, okay, so the Paisley originated in Persia as the Botta or as the Butta. It reappears in India as the Kairi or the Ambi, and then lands up in the UK as the Paisley and on the jackets of the Beatles. So there are all sorts of fun journeys that you have, and you can also have curated journeys which have been put together by the curators of the MAP Academy at MAP. So there are different kinds of journeys that you can do with interwoven. And interwoven actually was inspired by Museums Without Borders, a project of ours that developed during the pandemic when we found that people and objects could not travel. So we said, why don't we make them travel virtually? So the project really looks at the juxtaposition of an object from MAP with an object from a partner museum. And when you bring objects into dialogue, you get some really interesting conversations which are articulated by the curators from either side. And just to give you an example, on the right you see the peacock done by one of our most famous indigenous artists, Jangar Singh Sham, who's a Gond Pardhan artist. And we compared that with the owl that's done by the Inuit artist in the Rizdi collection called, I'm not sure if I'm getting this right, Kenwak Shavak. Yeah? And yeah, just we've collaborated with close to 50 museums on this, but just to give you an idea, let me play this promo for you, which
2 paintings that feature similar iconographies. A seated woman in an interior setting. Coming up next on Museums Without Borders.
So it's just different kinds of juxtapositions that we do which help us connect. And the last project I'd like to share with you is the MAP Academy. So the MAP Academy is really an online resource that we developed when we found that there was no comprehensive encyclopedia on Indian art. And so we thought it's time for somebody to really step in and do this. So there are 2 components, the encyclopedia and the short and long-term courses. And the MAP Academy actually launched in April last year, and with about 2,000 entries, and we are adding to it as we go along. And the second component, as I said, was the short and long-term courses. So we've introduced our taster course on textiles. Now we're developing the next part, which is the modern and contemporary section. And all the work that we do is reviewed by a panel of international scholars. So we are a new museum, and we've launched, so we're trying to, at this point in time, pause and reflect on what we've done and make sure that all we've planned and executed does respond to the needs of our communities. And it's quite amusing to think that when we were sitting together and really agonizing over how do we get young people into the space, because most of them so far seem so completely uninterested in museums. And I'm happy to say that they're all pouring in. We see them either in groups or they come for a date to MAP. So that's quite thrilling to see. And finally, so far all our attention has been focused on how do we draw people into the museum. But the next thing we're exploring is how do we look beyond MAP, outside of MAP, to go out into the community. And we're thinking of actually using all the content that we've built over the last 2 years and provide that in digital experience centers that we locate in public places, for example, railway stations, where thousands of people move through that, but they're very unlikely to come to the museum. So how do we reach out to this whole audience there that exists, but who have never experienced art, and how do we show them that really a museum can be a space of innovation, of discovery, of wonder, and that we do want to share the transformative power of the arts with them. So thank you very much.